end of the day পড়েই ফেলো, রাইটিংটা পড়েই ফেলেছিল। This is what we are actually going for. Okay, so the objective of this program is basically to take in an input of a file, something like this. So this will be an input. Okay, note there are two things here to note. So this is basically what we say as comma separated file. So this is a CSV file, what we say as. Okay, so you note one thing, that after your name there is a space, and after that there is a comma. Okay, so note one thing, I'm going to show you what happens if there is not a space, and what happens if there is a space. Okay, so this is the input which I'll be taking in. Then so this one has got the first is basically the roll number, the second one is a name, so basically roll number or serial number. Okay, then you have got some marks, another marks. So objective is basically I'll create a file, I'll basically create another file which will give me the result. So the serial number, name, and the total, this will be my output file. Okay, so this is my objective. So for that, what I've done is basically I've taken this sort of a structure. So this structure contains basically but an integer, that is a roll number, the character which is for 25 characters. I'm assuming that my name has got maximum of 25 characters. So this is my assumption. Okay, I have got two parameters, that is physics, and I have the total. So maths and the physics I'm going to rate. So these four parameters, these four fields I'm going to read from the file, and I'm going to basically add them over here, right? And I'm going to basically create another file. Another file will basically by the name of this thing, result.text. Okay, so where I'll write the files of basically the name and the total. That is what I'm going to do. This is a very simple thing. Okay. So what I have done, you see that I have created a pointer. So basically I'll create an array. Okay, what I'm going to take from the file, there are two things that I'm going to take from the this thing, what do you say, the command line. This is command line programming. That is basically, this is the program, this is the number of students which I'm going to take, and this is the total number. This is the file name which I'm going to take. This is the file name. Okay, so the file name, which is the file database which I'm going to take, right? So this is basically your usage. So what I'll do is basically, so obviously the total number of inputs has to be basically 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So argc counter is, if it is not equal to 3, then I'll basically say that the total number of arguments are not correct. Okay, and if my arg counter is basically is 1, the program name, then it will basically print this whole usage part. Okay. Okay, so now from here, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to take in the, so the second parameter you can see is basically takes in the total number of students. So I'll take in basically total number of students, basically A to Y argv1. So this is basically my argv1. So my first one argv0 is basically my program name. So this is my program name. This is argv0, this is argv1, and this is argv2, right? And where is my argc is basically, so the total number of students. So after that, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to create an array of this thing. I'm going to create an array of this total structure. So it will be basically std pointer calloc. So I'm using calloc over here, right? So student number, which is the size of this std, and I'm going to open this file, which is in this file, std database file, as a readable file only. So this is a file pointer, fpread, right? And there is another file pointer which I'm going to create for basically opening the file of result.text, which I'm going to keep it, where I'm going to keep the results. So that will be in a writing mode. There is also as simple as that. What if you remember is basically an append mode. There is also something called append mode, but I'll show you what basically append mode looks like. So now this is basically, I know this is a structured file. Okay, right. So this is a structured file. This got a struct. So where my first number is an integer, the second number is, the second data is basically a character. The third is basically a float. I'm assuming to be a float, and the fourth one is also assuming to be a float, right? So I'm going to read this file with a fpd. This is, you see, %d %s with a space over here. So the specific character structure, one is structure I have to give, right? Scanf, then %f, and I'm going to, now this one is basically a pointer. So if you remember that how I actually basically how we had actually worked with the this thing to the, what do you say, the what do you say, the structure, how we are basically each structure is basically parameter, right? So that is dot dot. Now you see this is not basically an ampersand because this is a string. So string is basically, it will be basically number, stddb counter dot name, and the maths and the physics, right? And I'm going to take a basically, then after that immediately basically I'll take a basically stdb counter. So counter is basically counts which starts with a 0. It counts with, it starts with a 0. So this basically goes through the loop of the, it works as a loop counter, as the array counter, right? So the array, it moves to the array. The total, this is basically come, and I'm going to printf this thing, right? I'm going to printf this thing. After that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write a function which takes in the, which sends the pointer of the fp right, which is over here, and I'm going to send the whole array also, the array. So the pointer is basically, I'm going to send it as a pointer of an array, and I'm going to send the total number of students which is there. So the total number of students is basically counted. Rather, so basically it will not be counted, it will be counter plus, right? So counter plus 1, basically total number of counts plus minus. So I can basically send this count minus 1 also, it can work out. So over here, then I will do is basically it will go to total number of students loop, and I'm going to write it into the file. So it will be the name and the name with a tab and the total which I'm going to write. Any questions over here? Hello?
Sir, can you please show the result generation function?
Yeah.
No, sir.
So I'm going to send in a pointer of a file which I'm going to write into, right? And so this is write is basically, you see that I have basically written as a W file.
Excuse me, sir.
Right? Yes.
So এই কোডটা একটু পাঠিয়ে দিলে ভালো হতো, মানে ইমেলে শেয়ার করে দিলে একটু।
তোদেরকে আমি এগুলো সব শেয়ার করে দেবো,
ঠিক আছে স্যার।
তোদের কাছে আমি সবই তো শেয়ার করে দিই, শেয়ার করি না পাস নিয়ে এর আগে কোর্স গুলো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার আছে,
সব পাঠিয়ে দিই, ঠিক আছে? The array pointer of the array. Now since this is already a pointer type, this is already a pointer type, so basically this is a pointer type. So if I just pass the array only, and this is basically int of a total students, total number of students. So I just go through the loop because this array already contains all the data. The structured array already contains the data. Okay, so let's see basically what it looks. So GCC -o beacon stddb. This is a file name. This is a executable file name which I want to talk, stddb.c. Right. So if I run an stddb only, so the point, so this is going to work. So if I just give only this thing, so this is going to work only. So the total number of counters is basically this thing. So it's going to give you this, right? if I give the total, say if I give only this thing 3, so there are only 2 things which is not equal to 3, so the number of arguments are not correct. So right now I basically go through the total number of files is 4, and this is basically the database's name is student.txt. Right. So let's see. I'll just delete this one. Right. So you see, this is the output which is what I'm getting. So it reads all the files, and this is the total which has been computed due to this thing, right? You see, the result.txt will also be created. So this is the Suraj, this is the total, and this is the total.
একবার এটা কোড দেখাতে পারবেন একবার?
হ্যাঁ। Please note that after each try, I have to close all the FPs also. So this is, I did not do something. So FP right, yeah, I have basically closed the file over here.
একটু স্ক্রল ডাউন করবেন। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে।
Just one minute. So any questions about this thing? Any questions about this code?
No, sir.
Okay, let's take up another problem.
স্যার
Yes.
স্যার ওইটা ওই স্পেসটা না দিলে কি হবে ওটা একবার একটু বলে দেন যদি।
কোনটা বল দাঁড়া। কোনটা বল?
স্যার স্যার টেক্সট ফাইলে যেটা আপনি নেমের পর একটা স্পেস দিয়েছিলেন না?
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Good. Thank you. দেখ তাহলে কি হবে এটা। So I just remodified this problem. Okay. তাহলে যেটা দাঁড়াবে, same thing which I'm going to pass. See what happens to name. Getting it? এইটা দেখ, see the output of this last one and see the output of this one. So what
Sir,
is actually happening? Huh?
স্যার ওই কোডটাতে যেটাতে ছিল এফ স্ক্যানএফ,
হ্যাঁ,
স্যার ওখানটাতে এফ স্ক্যানএফ ওই স্যার, হ্যাঁ স্যার ওই পার্সেন্টেজ এস এর পরে ওই স্পেসটাকে যদি করা হয়।
কোন সাইডে? এইখানে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার ওই স্পেসটা।
তাহলে তার কম্পাইলেশন করতে হবে। দেখ এখানে আরেকটা জিনিস চলে এসেছে, দিস কামিং ওভার হিয়ার। Okay, so let's do one thing. See if I actually basically not change these things. There is another permutation combination. So let's see if I give a space over here. Okay. So it goes on a code dump goes on an infinite part. See, this is the initial part which is actually being read. So you see, the data is not basically working. It cannot read the file properly. So the thing is that one thing you have to note is that the structure of the file should be same. The structure, this part should be same. This part should be same, right? And another thing is to be noted that if there is a percentage F only, this only is a problem with only percentage F, right? If there is a percentage F, it has to be noted that there must be a space between this characters and this comma. This has to be ensured. Otherwise, you will be coming to these sorts of problems. So you see that if I give a percentage of S without any gaps, so you see that it actually reads that whole file data together. So it just picks up that whole data. And the other part which does not have, so it just basically reads in 0, 0.
So ওটার জন্য f প্লাস দিলে হবে?
হ্যাঁ,
ওই স্ট্রিং এর পর f প্লাস যদি দিই ইনপুটে, মানে ফার্স্ট এর স্ট্রিংটা রিড করবে, তারপর f প্লাস দিয়ে, তারপরে মানে স্পেসটা খালি করে, তারপরে ও ওই মার্কস গুলো ইনপুট নেবে।
Okay, for that what you require to do is basically, no, you cannot do that one, right? So then what you have to do is basically you have to read get char, get c. So f get c, there is a command. So you had a get c, if you remember, get char, right? You had a get char, so man get char, I believe so it was. If you had this thing, so there is something called f get c also. F get c is basically reads the total string, right? This is basically from your this is for directly from your what do you say, this is from directly from a keyboard. So this is used from directly for files. F gets c, f gets is basically reads at most one less than the total size character in the string. So you have to use a get c then, f get c then. But then that becomes a little bit problem. F get c is a very good one, but that is good enough when you actually start reading character by character. So if it is an unstructured file, then you require to basically use a f get c. Okay, so let's take for example, you want to read a text. So you read character by character. So one So we assume that the total number of characters is basically is a string. Okay, so that can be done. That can be one way. So FCATC is basically when you read character by character. But FSCANF is practically actually used very good for when you want to read structured file. It's a very easy way, easy strategy of we are working with it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, স্যার
Hmm.
স্যার যদি ওখানে নামটার সঙ্গে কারো টাইটেলও থাকে মানে ধরুন মানে টাইটেলটা দিতে গেলে তাকে তো একটা স্পেস দিয়ে লিখতে হবে কিন্তু
হ্যাঁ
স্যার যখন যখন FSCANF দেওয়া হচ্ছে তখন তো স্পেসটাকে রিড করতে পারবে না
Now that this comma, when you say this is a comma does exist in this file also. Mind it. This comma has to be existing in the file. But if you, let's take for example, if you write something on Suraj Kumar, right, comma, then the problem will actually basically arise is that this will again not work. This will not again work. This will not work. This is actually a typical problem working with strings. This is a very, very typical problem working with strings. So while handling strings, a little bit careful. Strings does not work as like a character works. Strings does not work like a characters. So you are saying that basically if you want to give percentages, that will be a typical problem. That you will not be able to do. So the name and the title will be have to be given. So that is one of the reasons, if you actually remember, when you fill up most of these forms, you will see that most of these forms, the title and the basically characters are name. One of them is basically at the end of the day is basically CSV file. All these files which you basically get from Google Sheets and everything, most of these are basically kept as basically what you say as these are as good as basically CSV files. Okay.
স্যার
Yes.
স্যার আমরা তো এই সব প্রবলেম বাইপাস করতে পারি আনস্ট্রাকচার্ড ফাইল ইউজ করে
হ্যাঁ আমি তো করতে
ডেটা ক্লাম্প করে ওখানে রিড করব বা রাইট করব তাহলে তো আর
you can always do it. You can always do it. That you can always do it. But the thing is that unstructured file format, when you're working with unstructured file format, over there we are assuming that everything is a character. So if it is a number in between, so you have to either search for that number as a character string, as a characters. So you cannot basically compare two numbers over there. Because there is nothing numbered over there. Everything is actually a characters. Even your numbers are actually also kept as characters.
হ্যাঁ স্যার আমরা তো বাইনারি ফরম্যাটেও লিখতে পারি মানে ফাইলটা যে রিডেবল হতেই হবে এমন তো কোনো ব্যাপার নেই।
I did not get it. Come again.
আমি বলছি যে ফাইলটাকে আমরা .txt না করে যদি আমরা বাইনারিতে রাখি তাহলে
Binary বলতে?
readable হবে না বাইনারি ফরম্যাটে .dat যদি রেখে দিই বা .bin
So you want to basically write you want to have something like this. So let's take for example, Okay. So let's take for example, you want to actually see that VI. So this is basically your VI file, which actually looks like it.
ইয়েস স্যার, আমরা প্রোগ্রাম থেকেই ডিরেক্টলি ফাইলটা বানিয়ে ওটাকে ডট নেট হিসেবে স্টোর করলে তারপর আবার ওটাকে রিড করে ডিসপ্লে করতে অনেক সুবিধা হবে, মানে এত মানে টাইটেল দিলে যে
Look, there are ways. This is basically look. The fun part of basically with working with Linux is actually you can read even your executable files. But interpret your data, that is up to you. That is how you're going to interpret your data. That is up to you.
Yes.
I can interpret my data as an integer also and as a string also. If you remember from my IEEE format, if you remember it, so if I had kept it in an array, আমি যদি basically একটা integer তখন তো আমার basically result I have got different results. It is up to you how you going to interpret your data. So if you are getting, even if you are getting the binary data, so it's basically a string of zeros and ones. So let's take for example, you get a consecutive basically 32-bit, you read a 32-bit zeros and ones. Oh. So how you're going to interpret it, that is all up to you. So you read your 32 basically sequence of zeros and ones. After that, how you're going to basically you can interpret it as basically integer, you can interpret it as a long integer, but you can interpret it as a string, you can interpret it as a character. That's all up to you. That's all up to you. You will be able to read it. That is not a big issue. That is the fun part of C actually. That is the fun part of C. You can actually read all those data. But how you're going to interpret that data as an information, that remains up to you. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's take for example, I'll tell another example. Let's see if we can find out to some other day. So do have to basically get into the fgetc. When fgetc is basically just basically works like a simple getc. It works like getc only, right? So f file is basically you just have to give the file pointer, and then you can read character by character. And one good way of basically working is something like this. What we do is basically we take a large array, large character array. Okay, so basically you can basically create 256. So you go on reading data character by character, and till you basically find a space. So you read a character, put it in that array. You start putting it in an array, right? And after basically reading, after you getting an array, once you get a space, you can basically keep that end that array with a slash of 0. Okay, so and then that works like a string character. That works like as good as a string one. That you can always do. Right, so you'll have lots of arrays of you have a huge lots of data. So a very simple example, let's say for example, my objective is to actually read a file, right? And if I find basically a capital letter, I'll convert it into a small letter. Okay, so let's do this thing. It's a very simple thing. So hash include stdio dot h, okay, int main int argc character pointer argv. So I'll just take in one thing only, right? So file pointer fp read, I'll be having fp write, right? So f fp read is equal to f open. So arg1, right? So this is going to the file small to large dot c. Okay, so all small characters will be basically converted into large characters, and large characters will be converted into small characters. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, so what I'll take some data. Let's take for example, so I'll take some data from the Wikipedia. So let's say this basically I just got.
স্যার আপনার না ওখানে stdio.h দেওয়ার কথা।
Oh, sorry. So let's take for example. Okay, so this is basically my characters. Okay. So control S. Test data dot txt. Okay. So while not feof of fp read, right? So and fp write is equal to fp write equals to f open. So say there is a command by the name of st. So strcat reads in basically destination, appends a source string to the destination string, right? Source string to the destination string, right? So source to destination. So I'll use this one. So I'll be requiring hash include string.h, right? So this is something like strscat to, let's take for example, I'll be having source to destination. So I'll just this change dot text and this one will be argv. v1. So source to basically what was the command? So destination source. So this source. So this thing will be basically appended, so that appends a source to the destination string. right? Terminating the null byte at the end of the destination. So basically this one gets cached over here. Okay, so this one I believe I'm right. Change dot test, right? So let's see what happens. Then what I'm going to do is basically, yeah.
স্যার লাইন নাম্বার 7 এ ফাইল ওপেনের মোডটা দেওয়া হয়নি, রিড
Oh,
মোড।
sorry. So this one will be basically read file, and obviously this one also I require to do it.
আর স্যার লাইন নাম্বার 8 এ ফাইল পয়েন্টারের নামটা ভুল আছে,
Huh?
এফপি রাইট হবে স্যার, এফ আর রাইট হয়ে গেছে।
Okay, fine, thanks. So I believe ঠিকই আছে আশা করি, রাইট করব, রিড করব। Okay, so so what I require to do is basically qman f get c, right? So f get c. Okay. So I'm going to read one file, one data, one after the other. This one returns an integer. So int character equals to f get c. So this one will be fp read, right? If character is basically is less than equal to capital A and sorry, to be greater than equal to capital A, and character is less than equal to capital Z, right? Then we write is basically f puts. So this will be something like man f put c, right? Character, right? So it will be basically f put c, right? So I want to make this into a small character. So the difference between capital A and small a is how much? Hello?
32, suppose I.
So
Sir.
character minus 32 na plus 32 hobe. 65 and 97. 97 is basically small a, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
So this one will be plus 32, right? And this one will be basically at the fp right, right? Okay, now else if greater than small a less than z, so this one will be minus 32, else f put c
স্যার
yeah
স্যার লাইন নাম্বার 10 এ ওটা ইন্টিজার ক্যারেক্টার হবে না, ক্যারেক্টার হবে তো?
int niche. This is basically I'm taking an int. Character, na? Character will be returning as a char also, or I can interpret as a int also. See, what does it actually return? See, it returns an integer. So if it reads the next character from the string and returns in an unsigned char, cast to an int.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Please read these. Read these manuals. These are absolutely very good manuals. You will find no better manual than these things. Get to read or get in the habit of reading all these stuffs. You get a lot of clues to basically how to write good programs. So if close, fp write, if close, I have to basically this thing. I have to close all my opening files, right? Any problem over here? So let's see what it looks like actually. Okay, so okay, GCC minus O small to large, right? So small to large. The file is, what was the file's name? What was the file's name? .text.
Sir, I think it was test.txt.
Test data, na? Test data.txt. Why is it happening?
Sir, I think the file name was test.txt.
Huh?
So the file name I think was test.txt only.
%c, comma, wait. Not test data.text. Let's see whether the file name, whether it changed. It's been done. Why is there a segmentation fault? Let's see. Add. So 25. So let's hope this works. Yeah, it's working. So just hold a sec. Slash. Okay. So changed. So this is the thing. So you see the change text data. This is working, and this is my output one. Hello. So this is my text data. You see? Okay. So all my small characters was converted into character small, and this has been character. Any question? So it's basically a very simple application of VHC. So this is good for basically reading character files, one unstructured character data. Any question here? Any question? So I believe there are no questions. There is one small program, then I basically finished off with that today. So objective of this program is basically I'll create an array of Euclidean points, right? And given a line segment, I'll try to find out on which side of the line segment does this point lie. This is a very simple objective. Okay. So lying of a point on the left hand side or the right side is basically finding the area between the points of the line segment and the given point. Okay, so since all you know that area is a vector, right? So a positive sign of the determinant of finding the area will tell me whether it is on the left side, or the sign of basically will tell me basically indicate me whether it is finding on the left hand side or the left hand side or the right hand side. And if it is actually 0, then it lies on the line segment, right? Basically line segment. Any questions for that?
হ্যালো স্যার।
হ্যাঁ বল।
ও স্যার, ঠিক আছে।
আমি লাস্ট প্রশ্নের উত্তরের জন্য বসে আছি। লাস্ট প্রশ্নের উত্তর কি ছিল? প্রশ্নটা কি করেছিলাম? কি করেছিলাম লাস্ট প্রশ্ন? আচ্ছা বলতো কোন প্রবলেম স্টেটমেন্ট নিয়ে করতে চাইছিলাম? নেক্সট প্রবলেম স্টেটমেন্টটা কি বলতো আমাকে?
স্যার
Next
আপনি
problem
যেটা
statement
বললেন
কি ছিল?
ওই ইকুইলিডিয়ান পয়েন্টে মানে যেটা স্ট্রেট লাইনের রাইট সাইড না লেফট সাইডে থাকবে সেটা ডিটারমাইন করা।
স্ট্রেট লাইন করেছিলাম। কি করে বের করবো বলেছিলাম? কি করে বের করবো বলেছিলাম? What is the process? What is the process? তোরা ভাবিস যে বেসিক্যালি ক্লাসে বেসিক্যালি এই যে রেকর্ডিং গুলো করবি, করে নিবি, তাহলে তোদের হয়ে যাবে, তাই তো? তোরা তো এটাই চিন্তা করিস তো। তোরা তো এটাই চিন্তা করিস। তোদের কি মনে হয় যে বেসিক্যালি লাস্ট মুভমেন্টে এটা করলে তোরা সব ঠিকঠাক করতে পারবি? C is one subject through which you are going to earn your living. This is one of the basic topics of an engineering student jন্য, specifically for electronics and computer science. I'm not talking of computer science because I'm not in that class. But talking of electronic science, this is one of the very typical topics which you can actually work with. And you all decide to do what? Basically sleep behind your cameras. Or be not there behind your cameras. এটা আজকে হচ্ছে না, আমি অনেকদিন ধরে এটা লক্ষ্য করছি, এই জিনিসটা হচ্ছে। তোরা যদি মনে করিস, if you feel that you know everything, then why bother us here? Tell that you know everything and leave, na? And leave everything. If you believe that you know everything, আমি এই ভিডিওটা না তোদের সঙ্গে শেয়ার করব, না এই ভিডিওর কোনো কোড আমি তোদের সঙ্গে শেয়ার করব। আমি কোনো কিছুই করবো না এই ভিডিও। I'm going to tell you today. I'm not going to share this video with you, nor I'm going to share any files with you of this program. This cannot go on. This cannot go on. This cannot go on. আমি structured, আমি arrays, basically arrays of structures I have ending today only. I'm not even going to basically go into that problem which I told you also. Right. To tell you frankly, the two things which I was basically I was actually discussed to that problem. Number one, trying to generate random numbers, and number two was to generate arrays of structures and to pass them as pointers and references through a function. So these two things you can do it on your own. I'm not going to go for it. আমি আর করবো না। ও আর একটা করছিলাম, সেটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে basically trying to basically work the macro also. So these three things you learn it on your own. নিজেরা করতে। And with this thing, I believe C is finished. From next day onwards, I'll go on with the numerical methods. I'll work with numerical methods. মানে this program I was supposed to demonstrate the random numbers, macros, array of structures, passing array of structures as a pointers. Another thing I was basically applying for this, basically working with matrices. পুরো একটা প্রবলেমে সব চলে আসতো আমার, একটা প্রবলেম আমার সব চলে আসতো, কিছুই করবো না, এবার নিজেরা করে নেবো, নিজেরা করে নেবো। ঠিক আছে, চলো এন্ড ইট।